Welcome back, geographers. How has history influenced the region? Early history and conquest. Before the rise of the Inca in the 1100s, the Andean region was the home of societies such as the Moche, the Mapuche, and the Aymara. These societies were based primarily on agriculture. The Moche settled on the arid coastline of northern Peru. They used irrigation to grow crops such as corn, beans, and other crops. The Inca first settled in the Cuzco Valley in what is now Peru. By the early 1500s, their empire ran from northern Ecuador southward into Chile. It was home to an estimated 12 million people. The Inca conquered more than 100 ethnic groups who spoke at least 20 languages. The Inca state was called Tawantinsuyu. The name means, the land of 4 quarters, or provinces. The imperial capital was located where the 4 provinces of their empire met, at Cuzco. Inca society was a very structured hierarchy, with the high priest, emperor and army commander at the top. The nobility served the emperor as administrators. Farmers and laborers were at the bottom of society. Inca technology and engineering were very advanced. Their temples, fortresses, palaces, and irrigation systems can still be seen. Some of the most impressive ruins are at Machu Picchu, northwest of Cuzco. They had no written language, but used a counting system called quipu to keep records. A quipu was a series of knotted cords of different colors and lengths. The Inca also built a complex road system. Messengers could travel as far as 150 miles, 241 kilometers, a day on the roads. The Inca became very wealthy because of their vast natural resources of gold and silver. In 1532, a Spanish adventurer named Francisco Pizarro landed in Peru with a small band of soldiers. The soldiers were called conquistadors, the Spanish word for conquerors. He had heard about their fabulous wealth. He had also heard that the Inca Empire was badly weakened by a civil war. Although the Spanish were greatly outnumbered, the Inca were unprepared for Spanish artillery. Within a few years, Spain controlled the entire empire. They took control of the region's precious metals and used the Inca roads to transport goods. From Peru, the Spaniards branched out to create colonies in Argentina, Chile, and other parts of South America. These colonies became sources of wealth for Spain. Spanish rule of the region continued for nearly 300 years. The Inca and other Native Americans in the region suffered greatly under the Spanish. Their numbers dropped drastically as a result of smallpox, a disease introduced by the Europeans. Independent countries. By the early 1800s, most of South America had been ruled by Spain for nearly 300 years. The United States threw off British rule, and the French declared a republic. Struggles for independence took place in Mexico and the Caribbean. South Americans were encouraged by these events. 2 revolutionary leaders, Simon Bolivar and José de San Martín, led the fight in South America. San Martín pioneered many elements of guerrilla warfare. This is the use of soldiers who know the local landscape better than their opponents. By the mid-1800s, many South American countries had gained independence. Several new countries formed. Their borders mostly followed divisions set in place by the Spanish. In contrast to the United States, there was no strong desire for unity in South America. The continent's rugged terrain made communication between subregions difficult. The rulers of many of the new nations were wealthy aristocrats, powerful landowners, or military dictators. Their attitudes were more European than South American. The new countries lacked a tradition of self-government. The British colonies in North America had elected representatives in colonial legislatures. The new states of South America did not have this tradition. Nevertheless, they drafted republican constitutions. Social and economic instability resulted from a huge gap in the distribution of wealth between rich and poor. Bloody conflicts over boundaries or mineral rights led to much loss of life and to weakened economies. History of the region in the modern era. Following independence, the Andean and Midlatitude countries faced economic and political challenges. Among the economic challenges were developing and controlling resources, building roads and railroads, and creating trade links. The economies of these countries remain tied to countries outside South America. Beginning in the early 1900s, large US and European multinational firms, which do business in several countries, started mining and smelting operations in the region. Wealthy landowners and multinational companies prospered. Many workers and farmers, however, remained poor. Politicians promised they would change the economic system for the better. In 1946, General Juan Perón was elected president of Argentina. His government made economic reforms that benefited workers. However, his government also limited free speech, censored the press, and added to the country's debt. After overthrowing Perón in 1955, the military government put an end to unrest. They imprisoned thousands of people without trial. Some were tortured or killed, or they simply disappeared. Argentina was also troubled by conflict with Great Britain over the Falkland Islands, a British overseas territory. In 1982, Argentina lost a brief war and the Falklands remain a British territory today. In 1970, Chileans elected Salvador Allende as president. He took steps to redistribute wealth and land. The government took over Chile's copper industry and banking system. His reforms were popular with the people, but angered the upper classes. In 1973, he was killed when military officers seized power in a coup, an illegal seizure of power. A military dictatorship under General Augusto Pinochet ruled Chile for the next 16 years. In recent years, democracies have replaced dictatorships. In 2005, Bolivians elected Evo Morales, the country's first indigenous president. He introduced a new constitution and land reform. Chileans and Argentinians have elected women presidents. Both female leaders started efforts to improve human rights and equal opportunity.